Last month, Kenya held the African Forward Summit, which is kind of ironical given that other African countries are moving away from France, but us, we are welcoming them. But that was last month. But then again, who are we? We're just Kenyans. We just listen to what these people tell us. Now, tunasonga too, there's nothing we can do. But we can have an opinion. So today on the menu is the African Forward Summit and then the social media backlash that hit the artists that performed on the event, on the said event, the weird treatment of the France president on Kenyans. That's weird because you cannot come to our land and then treat us the way you want. And finally, something that Shiro Murioki posted on her Substack. That's what's on the menu today. So hi, I'm Omboy. Welcome back to the Shift podcast. Now, I've been away for the past 6 months, 8 months. I don't know. But thank you so much to the 50 subscribers. If you like what you hear or you like this kind of content, this kind of thing, or just listening to somebody talk about the current issues in Kenya and Africa at large and also the issues that affect us. So please subscribe and let's move. So a month ago, that was on May 11th to 12th, Kenya co-hosted, that is Kenya alongside France, co-hosted the Africa Forward Summit, which is kind of strange because, of course, we know that Africa is divided into a colonial system was working. Like, say, for example, if you were colonized by Britain or England, you're an Anglophone speaking country, and if you are colonized by France, you're a Francophone speaking countries. I'm not too sure what the Portuguese people are called. What do you call the Mozambique guys? I do not know. I have no idea. But that's how it works. But recently, France was kicked out of the Sahel region for reasons that are quite valid, because we've gotten to a point where we think that now as Africans we're supposed to be building our own economy and not relying on other people. But then again, when it comes to relying on other people, I usually question myself in this way. You see, investors invest only in something that has a return. So if the Europeans, and you know how they work and they always want a return on their investment, they are in these countries, they're in Africa for the return that they get from Africa. So I'm thinking Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, yes, how can I forget? They saw that they were getting the worst end of the deal if they were dealing with France. And that has happened since time immemorial, since the French colonized Africa. That is what has been happening. They come, they pick your resources, and then they go and add value in their country, and then they sell them back to you. If it is not that you find that a lot of francophone countries do not have like their reserves in their country, like the reserves, the gold reserve, all the reserves that back their currency in their own country, they have them in France. So this means that everything that they do is backed by France. So hence why they wanted France out of their country, so they can be able now to govern themselves the way that they wanted to, which is, I feel like, that shouldn't be that complicated. It's like, we no longer want you here, so you go. But then again, once they were kicked out, they saw Kenya as one of the places to start the I don't want to call it dominance, they're calling it investments. Yes, because once France was taken away from the Sahel region, now they want to like Kenya to be their door back to now Africa, which is kind of ironical because I think as Kenyans we're kind of naive, or I don't know what we are, because if other people are kicking these people out, what makes us think that they're going to be good for us? Anyway, I don't understand. With the support, so Emmanuel Macron, with the support of William Ruto, they came together with 30 African leaders, 15,000 business leaders, and various stakeholders for innovation, growth, and renewal of partnerships. In most cases, these things usually look very, very simple once we say in renewal of partnerships, innovations. This means that these people want to come and do business in Africa. They want to come and do business in Kenya. So we are the people who are easy, who can easily accept them to come and do businesses with us. And I have so many questions, but we'll answer them as we go. So France came to Kenya in response to the diminishing presence in the Sahel region. This is according to the BBC. So, France has initiated a strategic pivot towards East Africa and Anglophone Africa, with Kenya emerging as a key player. The decision to host the African Forward Summit in Nairobi, an Anglophone country, is the first time over 5 decades, is a clear manifestation of the shifts. So, we're the people who are going to be used in the new way of France doing business. But then again, France has a very, very, very dark past with other people as their partners. They started with Haiti, where they didn't like the demand for slavery and liberation. Then they killed people in Cameroon. Then there is Togo during the colonial period, the colonial army. It's a very dark past, and I think colonialism is quite sanitized, because if you ask me, if we keep bringing these investors here in the country, which, and I mean that's as a good thing, but I would like people to always understand that if investors come and give us 100% of the money, it means that we own nothing. Recently, there was a time when Lynn Ngugi was doing she did an episode about the research that is done here in Africa and how we do not hold the IP rights of the research that's done. It is quite impossible for you to hold the IP, like the intellectual property rights of particular research, if you did not fund it. Unfortunately, in this capitalistic world that we live in, is the IP is often owned by the person who has funded. So if, let's say, a company from France, from England, from wherever comes into the country, and let's say fund something like growing maize and how to grow maize that is not affected by pesticides. If that country comes and funds it, it means that they own the IP rights, and any product that's going to be developed, even if it's your talent that's going to develop it. And that's something that I don't think that we put into consideration when we are, how can I put it, when we are fighting, or when we really, really want, or when we're really fighting for the funding, or when we are trying to get these funders to come in and fund us. That's something that we do not even put into account. So definitely, if you've been on the socials, I'm sure you saw the video of the France president coming to get people to shut up, because shut up, this is.
Hey, hey, hey! I'm sorry, guys, but it's impossible to speak about culture, to have people like that super inspired coming here, making a speech with such a noise. So this is a total lack of respect.
Talking and all that is what happened. So, and then there was a lot of uproar of this sort of disrespect that he accorded, like, the people who attended the function, and rightfully so, because I don't think there is any African president or any African leader who would ever go to a European country and stand in front of everybody, not having been called to talk, and tell them to shut up. But a European president can come into our country and do that, and tell people, if you don't want to listen to what we're doing, just get out. It's kind of disrespectful, or kind of like treating us like toddlers, which is what I find that quite off. Yeah, me and thousands of others on the internet. But now the uproar went on, and now it got like our artists. There was Bien who performed on the stage on the Africa Forward Summit, and The uproar is quite valid in my opinion, and yet not valid, because I feel like Kenyans, we get to a point where we want to hold people accountable for things that they're not responsible for doing. What do I mean? I mean, like, let's say, for example, the hosting of the Africa Forward Summit with France, that's a responsibility of our government. They are the ones who put that together. So if they got somebody to come and perform, chances are that person is there to, maybe, most likely, it's just get the bag in most cases. And most people do that. They're there to get the bag. And also, it's a good platform for exposure and to also work with other people in other continents. It's a good thing. But then again, I remember when people were calling out for the cancellation of BN, which I'm quite against, because you cannot hold a person who is only invited to the table for a particular thing and not hold the person who created the table accountable. Okay, and the people holding BN accountable is quite, from their point of view, it's quite valid, because he's a type of person who is quite an activist for the political presence in Kenya, and I understand that. But I also feel like calling out for his cancellation, given all that he has done to put Kenya on the map with his art, is not it, especially for this type of thing, because I'll just leave it at that. But then again, he put out a tweet said, I can sit at a table with global leaders and still remain fully African, fully critical, and fully myself. Presence is not submission. The other person who went through the cancellation was Dennis Ombachi. What Dennis Ombachi did was just hold his normal videos, the normal videos that he does, and that was also I think also, before I continue the other points, Kenya, there's always this push and pull for cancellation, and how everybody wants to cancel somebody who has not done right, given the things, the whatever that is happening in the country. Now everybody wanted to cancel Dennis Ombachi because of how he invited, or how he had the French president in his house to do the videos that he does. And that's like, for something like that to happen, it's like his team talks to your team, and then you come and you do what you're supposed to do. It's not something like that you go and seek out for as a content creator. It's often their team seeks out your team, and then you come and maybe do a video. I don't think cancellation at this point in this country is going to work, because you have tried it even when Bien did what he did, and I saw also Chiki's message, and also Lin Ngugi was also uproared when this happened, and rightfully so. For her, she's like the Africa forward, and I'm also African forward, and like a Pan-Africanist at heart. But the thing that I struggle with so much is holding other people, and often they're not even people who are at the table to make these decisions. They're just people, like holding an entertainer. And I know the type of power entertainment holds in this country, and in whatever place that you're in, it holds power, it holds influence, it holds everything. But the thing is, holding entertainers to such a high standard than the people in politics, because the people in politics took us, the common wananchi, the common Kenyan, to get where they are. And that is what I struggled with so much. Like, why do you have to cancel the person who's being invited, the person who's being paid to perform, rather than hold the person who's creating the, what do you call it, creating the entire event, or holding the entire, or creating the policies, creating the systems that are keeping our country backwards, and a country, and also inviting people who do not hold us the same esteem that we hold them, or we're supposed to hold them as they come to our country. That is what I struggled so much with. But finally, there was this Substack that Shiro Morioki wrote, and she did compare Ombachi and the criticism he faced to this guy, the guy who killed Dedan Kimathi. So, on the morning of October 21st, 1956, Dedan Kimathi was walking near a trench on the edge of the Nyandara forest in Nyeri, exhausted and alone, when a home guard named Dirango Mao shot him in the leg. Kimathi raised his hands and identified himself. He was captured, tried before an all-black jury on the charge of illegal possession of a firearm, and hanged at Kamiti Prison on February 18th, 1957. The British colonial government printed out 100,000 leaflets in Yekoyo announcing his capture. Durango received a share of the bounty on Kimathi's head and used part of it to buy a bus. And here's the worst part is nobody ever rode that bus. His children were bullied in school. His neighbors made sure his family understood at every national holiday exactly what he had done. He died in 1986, having spent his 30 years of his life telling anyone who would listen that he regretted it. The community did organize a campaign against him. They simply remembered and they acted on what they remembered. The bus sat and rotted. That's it for today. I'm a little bit rusty. This is my first episode in like 8 months, but I plan to be dropping an episode every. I don't want to say day, but let me try every week. Thank you so much. Please subscribe, share, and comment. So, what do you think? Does the Africa Forward Summit hold a huge significance for us as Kenyans, or does cancel culture stand any ground, especially here in our country? That's it for today. See you.